A new weapon playstyle just dropped in Albion Online. The devs have added a new class, let's say. And yeah, it's like, imagine you have a Buddhist monk, but this monk is also a sniper, and it's Albion Online, so it's fantasy setting, so it's a fantasy sniper. And instead of a sniper rifle, the monk snipes people with a hammer, a polehammer to be specific. Now, if you're a reasonable person, you're probably thinking that this makes no freaking sense and what the hell were SBI smoking when they cooked up this abomination? But have no fear, because I will explain how this works, and just to defend the devs, I don't think they did this on purpose. I don't think they quite realize what they've done, and if I were to take a wild guess, I would expect this will get changed pretty soon. So if you want to abuse this while it's still possible, shame on you, but I will also explain how to do it. The playstyle was made possible in the last balance patch, obviously. They've increased the range of the Polehammer, so now you can snipe people with it. The devs have done this to increase the viability of the Polehammer in group content, in ZVZs, but balancing all the 130 weapons in Albion Online is like playing a game of whack-a-mole. If you change something for one content, it will have effects on the other one, and in this case, the effects from the group content change trickle down to the solo PvP. Anyway, the prime example of how to use this is all in this clip right here. You can see me facing dual swords, and I take a few free hits because they are still on dismount cooldown, but the moment they are not, I stun them, I slow them with my W, and then I just dance at the edge of the screen, waiting for my next E. In this particular clip, I can bait them into my Armor of Valor, but this is not necessary. Basically, I just play this as if I were a ranged weapon. If they get too close, I stun them, I use my slowing charge to create some distance and slow them on the way. There is actually no need for me to take any swings at them from a close distance. If I'm patient enough, I can slowly poke them from a safe distance. This is where the Buddhist monk analogy comes from. You need to be very patient when you play this, as the fights where you slowly dance around your opponent, poking them for cheap damage, can take several minutes. Let me speed up this fight in the background, and this is actually one of the shortest fights I've had with this weapon. And I'm actually showing you this from halfway through. We did reset with this guy once before, which is the second part of the Buddhist monk analogy. Buddhist monks are not afraid of dying, and when you play this weapon, you will also not be afraid of dying, because at any time you can decide to just stun your opponent, slow charge away, dip, mount up. Basically, you have full control over how much risk you wanna take. If the fight doesn't go your way, you almost always have a get out of jail for free card at your disposal. The challenge of playing this build lies in not falling asleep halfway through, of not losing the patience and YOLOing inside. Yeah, you have to be the Buddhist monk, inner peace, all this stuff. Just take your time, take it slow. The second challenge comes from the fact that after a few minutes of you constantly poking your opponent from a safe distance, your opponents might realize that they actually don't want to fight this.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
And in that case, you need to use your toolset to keep them in combat. So you always have to balance this fine line of keeping a distance between you and your opponent, but not too big of a distance. So there is this Goldilocks zone of 20 meters at which you reach your opponents, and it was actually somewhat difficult to nail this precisely. I've had people run away from me on multiple occasions. So when I said I hope this gets nerfed in the upcoming patches, it's not necessarily because I believe it's such a strong weapon, although I do believe it's strong, but it's because it's so annoying, toxic to play against, and it feels that the devs have not really intended for this gameplay to emerge. But maybe that's just my opinion. Yeah, I actually don't know. Now, if you think that dancing around your opponents for minutes at a time is boring and annoying, then you may find some solace in the fact that this is much more boring and annoying for them. At least that's my takeaway from all the chat messages I'm getting. Can't say that I blame them, to be honest. Like, I'm used to getting gamer moments messages from players in Albion. It's a full loot PvP, it's part of the game, but people seem to get really mad when I play this against them. In this clip, you can see me screwing up. I have invisibility potions equipped because open world, and drinking them when bleeding from battle axe is the dumbest, most noobish mistake, because the bleeds cancel them immediately. So do you think I will die because of this misplay? Not at all. Let me just use my insane mobility to get away and mount up and reset the fight. In the second fight, I also do some mistakes, so let me just reset again. No problemo, being chilling. And after third reset, my opponent is full of it. And that's a reasonable take, The Polehammer felt really strong in corrupted dungeons, because when kiting, I often had to kite through traps where I could stun my opponents in and get some free damage. If you've seen my glaive video, you'll know that I find this very enjoyable. If you find yourself facing a Polehammer, the key is not to fall into their tricks, and make sure you don't give them a chance to stun you in the traps, like this Daybreaker does here. Yeah, I try to kite away from them, my usual playstyle, and they're making really sure not to step on the spikes. They only rush through once my E has been used, they know they're safe. Like here in this brawl, I'm saving my E because I wanna stun them in the trap. But they just refuse to step on it. As a good player, they take the long route around it. So I just use my E in a regular fashion and I almost get killed by the mob. And since this fight is really not looking good for me, I try to go for a reset. And while I run through the dungeon, I keep stacking up on butts, which is also not good. But eventually I managed to find a quiet spot, so I drink my soup for the soup gambit. After I'm at full HP, I swap to my regular food, wait the 10 seconds cooldown, and try to get into combat while my opponent is still not fully regenerated. Now it's me chasing them, but I have the long range snipes, so yes, I managed to get them in combat. Now I start with some advantage, despite having a 6 beds debuff. At this point, I think they should have run towards me. I've used my E, there's nothing they can achieve by just standing on the edge. I'm just waiting for my next E. And ideally, I would love for them to chase against me so that I can stun them in the traps again. They're really avoiding that. So again, as the Buddhist monk, I'm just very patient and I slowly snipe them from the distance. By the way, if you are running a leather helmet, I think cleanse would be a good counter to Polehammer as well. Something to consider. Finally they go for it. Now my E is almost up, so I would love to stun them in traps. While baiting them into it, I get stung myself. Once they pop their Infernal Shield, I just kite away. Once they connect with their Spider-Man, I don't use my W until they swoop in, so that I still get the distance. And back to the sniping we go. GG's, man. Where the weapon shines the most is unconsensual PvP, also known as Ganking. I've heard this nature stuff fighting from a distance, so I sneak in invisible. I almost get unlucky with the timing, but they dismount just as my invisibility potion expires. I don't use my Q in here because that would draw the mob aggro. If you'll allow me to take out my crystal ball, I predict that we're going to see a lot of high IP Polehammers in the mists in the near future. Who knows, maybe the next account that Pandakota creates is going to be a Polehammer main. And who knows, maybe the next Only Reds video will feature a Polehammer. Like, would this weapon work for this? I don't know, maybe it could. In the Mists, playing on Cultist Ropes felt better than playing on Armor of Valor. That's because the damage on the blade was just too low, and the fights took too long, people would dip. Which, in the Mists, people seem to be more inclined to run away if they don't like the fight than they do in Corrupted Dungeons. Although, I think that's a mistake, you can run from Corrupted Dungeons too. If you're wondering about how to play against ranged weapon, it's the very same thing. Yes, the ranged weapons can attack you from a distance, but you are a sniper, you can outrange them.
Pretty close to heaven now. Moments of euphoria. I am never coming down. Oh my, this time I'ma keep it going. Stay fucked up, feel so good. High on my, the sky underneath my feet. It never looked so good. Oh my, that's right. I'ma keep it up. Stay fucked up, that's my mood. Oh my, euphoria.
Just look at that range, disgusting. I see a player approaching from north, but if they are on the Spectre board, it's probably a gatherer, so I don't care. Don't even bother inspecting. At this point, I feel like my opponent just ran out of patience, so instead of kiting again, they decided to just stay and manhandle me. Look at that trash rate though.